Hello everybody, this is Professor Hill, and this is a brief video for our class, Introduction to Ethics 2306, here at St. Philip's College. And we're down to the wire. Good news is today is Tuesday. Oh my gosh, June the 27th, 2017, the day San Antonio signed the Paris Climate Change Agreement, which we're going to come to actually this Sunday night. But let me not jump too far ahead. I got a couple things to make up first, which is number one. Number one, it's Tuesday, and I told you that I would give you an ending to the students' cartoon. That was discussion number 6. That was due Sunday night. I've been going through those yesterday and today. There have been some very good responses. And again, just in terms of the calendar, where we are is that was due Sunday night. We have the Nash family, discussion number 7, due on Thursday. And then the final one is the climate change paper. That's discussion number 8. That's due this upcoming Sunday. And that'll be the last one of these discussions that we've been doing. Beyond that, all you have is the final exam, which is due by Wednesday. Oh my, that's July the 4th, is that right? July the 5th. Wednesday, July the 5th. That's it, final exam. And it's already posted. You can start working on that now. Chip away at it. Get it done. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to wait till next Wednesday. But you do want to make sure that you get through. We had 4, 5, and 6. We did as a block for the last couple of problems. And now we're in Chapter 7, looking at virtue ethics, which is the last of our big ethical theories that we're going to look at as a class. And we're going to do the Nash family and the climate change paper. Those are the two discussions we're going to have based on chapter number 7 and of our book, Doing Ethics by Louis Vaughn. So, Sunday night, you turned in a paper about the student's cartoon. I told you in my last video, you would not believe how it ended. And that's true because it does have kind of a surprising end to it all. As you know from the story, student doodled a cartoon in class. It was a violent cartoon of him shooting the professor. But then at the end of class, he wadded that thing up and threw it away, put it in a garbage can. Somebody else fished that out. Another student who saw him do it fished it out of the garbage can because she had seen him over the shoulder, kind of seen him drawing it. It disturbed her. She grabs that thing, takes it out of the garbage can, and delivers it to the professor. So now we have this problem, which is this a threat? Now, the cartoon itself is pretty scary. It scared the fellow student. It scared the professor, who took it straight to the dean. The dean was like, whoa, hold on a minute. The dean says, yeah, this looks really bad, but the student didn't give this to you, right? No. What did the student do with it? Threw it in the trash. Really? Okay. How'd you get it? Another student fished it out. And the dean says, well, then do you feel threatened? Which I think is an interesting kind of, it's a subjective element here. And the professor says, yeah, I do. The dean says, yeah, but it wasn't like he was threatening you. He didn't give it to you. He threw it away. The professor's like, look at this. So dean says, all right, look, tell you what I'm going to do. Call student in here, sort this out. Calls the student in, and the student says, oh my God, where did you get that? And he says, well, the student gave it to the professor. Now, the student who drew the cartoon says, look, I did it. I drew the cartoon. But oh my God, I was just doodling in class. It's nothing. It was just some crazy thoughts I was having. I would never have delivered to the professor. I would never threaten a professor. And I'm shocked and embarrassed that somebody dug this out of a damn garbage can. Well, the dean says, all right, look, I'm going to look into this, and I'll call you back and let you know what we're going to do. So the dean looks at the student's record, doesn't have any kind of judicial record, doesn't have a criminal record, doesn't have a history of violence or anything like that. This is somebody who's been just a straight A student, high school, college, law school. Again, it's a fact that this is happening in a law school. This is a law school classroom. Now, man, I got to tell you, the dean goes back to the professor and says, look, I took your complaint very seriously. I talked to the student, but based on my investigation, my interview with the student, everything else I've done, I don't really think that this is a threat. And the professor says, what are you talking about? Look at the document. So the dean kind of rolls his eyes. What do you want me to do? And the professor says, look, and I think this makes a difference where you are. If this had been the beginning of a semester, this might have been a very different outcome. But it's close to the end of the semester. And the professor says, you need to suspend that student for the remainder of the semester, which, as it turns out, it's only a couple of weeks. And the professor's like, it seems, the dean's like, look, that's a pretty harsh sanction. He says, I've been threatened, so the least you can do, protect me from the student. I don't want to see him in my class again. Well, sure enough, the dean follows the professor's advice, and I kid you not, they suspended the student. And interestingly enough, the student's reaction is, oh, no, listen, I don't want to cause any waves. If you guys want to suspend me, that's no problem. Sure. When can I come back? And the dean's like, well, look, it's the end of a spring semester. Sit out over the summer. You know, the guy had an internship anyway. He was going to be leaving. He says, look, come back in the fall. It'll be like nothing ever happened. And sure enough, that's what happened. The student said no problem, quietly packed his bag. He, by the way, did finish his courses. Again, we're close to the end of the semester. He was able to take his exams in his classes, so he didn't lose any credit. And with the one professor who didn't want to see him again, they had another professor administer the final exam to the student one-on-one someplace in like the library or something. So he didn't lose any credit, but, and this was not a small factor, he did have a suspension on his record. Now, for a lot of students who are in college, that's not that big a deal. But if you're in law school, well, then that makes a big difference because, you know, you're going to graduate, you have to sit for the bar, there's going to be an investigation, you have to be, you know, the dean of the law school has to say that you're morally fit to sit for the bar. And they do all kinds of investigations, and being suspended, I guarantee you that was something he had to explain to some bar committee down the road. So again, I'm saying that even just a short suspension of a couple of weeks, you know, that makes a difference. Now, in this case, the student didn't have any further problems, went along, graduated, never heard a peep again out of that student. So it looks like it was, you know, and again, you come back to this thing about, is the cartoon a threat in and of itself, which is an interesting question. The student didn't think so, so there was no intent. And the best evidence of that is he never delivered it. He threw it away, which is why the dean believed him and wanted to just write the whole thing off. The professor, and again, I can see their point, was perhaps justifiably upset. But it's an interesting distinction, though, between, you know, is there a violation of a code or not? Is there a threat or not? And then what's the appropriate sanction? In this case, they kind of split the difference by saying, look, the dean was like, I don't really think he violated the code, but we're going to say he did, and just give him a relatively light sanction, which was a couple of weeks suspension. But even, like I said, can you really call that light if you're in law school? I don't know. It's still going to be a pretty serious thing. It can follow you around for a while. I was really unhappy about this one. You know, I said with the group study problem that the student failing the assignment but passing the class, that I was kind of okay with that one. This one, I believe the student, I didn't think there was ever a threat. My thing to the professor was, look, you know, get over it. But that didn't go over well, and professors do have a lot to say. So, I was unhappy with the outcome of this one. I never thought that student would end up getting suspended for drawing a cartoon and throwing it away. I don't know. That one left me unhappy. But if that one leaves you unhappy, wait till we get to the next one. All right, so it's Tuesday the 27th, right? We got another one of these things due Thursday, the 29th. That's the Nash family. And then finally, the climate change paper on Sunday, the last one. The Nash family, I want you to look at what's really going on in this story and in this situation, because a lot of students kind of boil it down. They think it's about one thing, when you start to unpack it and look at it, you realize there's a lot of really difficult issues in this. And the Nash family, again, it's this story about the family that they have a daughter, Molly, who's born with all kinds of problems and medical issues, not least of which is the Fanconi anemia. And they get approached by another doctor who says, look, I got a radical suggestion because it had never been done before. And that is, I know the problem is finding a match, somebody without the anemia, somebody who's a match for your daughter. And they're like, yeah, we can't find one. We tried it. We would have done it. Nobody's a match. And he's like, look, have another kid. We'll just do the genetic testing in vitro to make sure that the final candidate that gets selected is a match. We'll know for sure by the testing. And this raises all kinds of issues, not least of which is this one, which is this is a couple that are deciding to have a baby. They're going to create a human being intentionally as a medical therapy for another human being. They're upfront about saying, no, we did this to save our daughter. And it wasn't like it was painful. You'll probably be, again, familiar with the book and the movie that was loosely based on this story, but was changed around a little bit to make it a little bit more dramatic. That was My Sister's Keeper. I can tell you that in this case, all they needed was the stem cells out of the umbilical cord, which they took completely painless to Adam, the younger brother who's created for this purpose. And so just with this threshold question, and I'll talk some more about this in another video, but just with that threshold question, you got to think to yourself, why is it that people have children? Are there acceptable and unacceptable reasons for having children? Or is that something we can't even talk about? Is creating a human being for some purpose outside of them? Remember when we talked earlier about values, we were talking about extrinsic, intrinsic. Here we're talking about creating a human being as a tool, as an instrumental value in terms of curing the sister. That's kind of a disturbing question. The parents were like, we're trying to save our daughter. And it's not like, they just had the baby, got the umbilical cord, and then said, okay, to heck with that kid, put him up for adoption or something. Oh, no, look, they wanted to have another kid. In fact, they went on to use the same process to have a third child. So, going to be a lot of conflicting and overlapping causes, but start with that one. Start with, are there acceptable and unacceptable reasons for having children? Or is that something which is just completely up to the couple involved? Yeah. And again, we're not talking about legally. We're talking about morally, ethically. Right, wrong, good, bad. What do you think and why? So, wrestle with that one. That's the Nash family's due Thursday, the 29th, day after tomorrow. And then Sunday night, the last one, the climate change paper, and those final exams, which I hope you're already working on. Again, we're down to it, guys. So hang in there, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.